Welcome everybody to the July 15th, 2015 IgniteCDA, Coeur d'Alene's Urban Renewal Agency, formerly Lake City Development Corporation Board of Directors meeting. First order of business is a Pledge of Allegiance. So Dave, would you lead us in that?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Public comment? First opportunity for public comment. Don't see any. So takes us to approval of minutes of the June 17th, 2015 board meeting.
Move to approve the minutes of the June 17th meeting.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve those minutes. Are there any questions, comments, or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports, finance. Rod.
Mr. Chairman, if we could start with the Lake District first, and we'll look at the balance sheet. If you look at the balance sheet, you'll see that we have a significant increase in cash assets of $96,247. And when I get to the profit and loss statement, we'll talk about the income we received in June. All other assets stayed about the same. On the liabilities section, mortgages and note payable, we had a decrease of $8,702. That represents our normal monthly payments on those obligations. Everything else was fairly static for the month. There wasn't a whole lot of changes. If you go to the profit and loss statement for the same Lake District, you'll see that we had tax increment revenue during the month of $119,324. We had rent income of $11,835, and we had some interest income of $303 for total income $131,462. The other items on the profit and loss are fairly typical with a normal operating month. Are there any questions about either the balance sheet or the profit and loss for the Lake District before we go to River? Seeing none, let's go to the balance sheet first on the River District. And on the River District, we did have an increase in cash of $31,219. And we get the profit and loss statement. I'll show you how much money we had come in that month. Everything else stayed about the same as far as the allocations. Did I say that incorrectly? I must have.
You said 2019.
Okay, $31,291. Thank you. So that's how much came in. If you go to the profit and loss statement for the River District, you will see that we had revenue during the month of property tax increment of $45,585. We had interest income, $271 for a total of $45,586. Excuse me? $856. See, I'm transposing numbers today. I have to get bigger numbers on here. Liabilities, everything is the same. And then you look down a little bit further on the expenses. We did have the $5,456 line item for marketing, brochures, communication. Everything else was about the same as a typical month. Are there any questions about the balance sheet or profit loss statement for the River District? If not, Tony has passed out the updated payable sheet that I'd like to review. On the payables, you will see that we had a minor item with legal counsel from Elin & Burke, $185. For Hawley and Troxel, we had $3,723.72. Most of that being legislative issues, and the Burlington Northern right-of-way acquisition was included in there. Then a lot of activity in our semi-annual debt obligations that we pay. And you'll see as you go through that list, it totals $1,219,897.26. And you can see quite a few of the items that we're paying are interest only, that we haven't hit the section where we start paying principal on those. But we do make these payments typically twice a year, and fairly significant amounts, with the biggest one being the Washington Trust Bank district bond payment that we paid of $1,040,000. Go down a little bit further, you'll see the Four Corners Master Planning Initiative. Our total contract amount is $118,280. And during the month, we have bills that we need to pay of $27,407. And you can look to the right where it shows what the city has paid, what we have paid on that work. And then the last item we have is the Range Northwest, Inc., and that is the work that they've done for us on IgniteCDA. You'll see a total of $15,640. If you add all the items up, and as again I said, it's a busy month, it's $1,266,852.98. Any questions about the payables? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval of the financials and also the payables.
Second.
I'll go Justice.
Scott,
You can give it to Scott.
Okay, move and second to approve the financials and the payables. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the draft budget discussion and publication approval, which I'll ask Tony to go ahead and review with the commission.
Jeff, can we roll the screen down and put that one graphic up? I'll go ahead and start the conversation on the draft budget. As you know, every year the board looks at a draft budget in July, and then we look at a formal adoption of a real budget, so to speak, in August, and we have to have the budgets finalized and transferred to the city by September 1st. So every July we look at this draft budget, and I've put a summary sheet on the screen for the audience here and for the viewing audience. You have already seen these numbers in earlier correspondence. So just to kind of briefly walk through the draft budget, for the Lake District, we have an estimated beginning balance as of this October 1st of $4.4 million. We have estimated revenues of $4.4 million coming into the next fiscal year. We have estimated expenses of $5.6 million, with a total estimated fund balance ending on 9/30/2016 of $3.2 million. Jeff, can you move that screen down just a little bit more, or the graphic just a little bit more to get that final number on there?
Or move the sheet up.
Or maybe just you have to or just decrease it a little bit. But anyway, you can that summary table at the bottom's fine. At the bottom's fine, Jeff. So switching over to the River District, we have an estimated beginning balance of $4.9 million. We have estimated revenues of $2.3 million. Expenses of $1.4 million, with an estimated fund balance of 9/30/16 of $5.7 million. So that's the overall budget summary. Some of the key items that we have in the budget this year is, as with every year, I need to use the past year levy rates to calculate our increment. Since IgniteCDA is not a taxing entity, we just used the tax rates that are set by taxing entities, and so I use the 2014 levy rates in establishing what our anticipated tax increment revenues are going to be. So for 2015, we have a preliminary assessment values in the Lake Districts experience a $7 million pre-Board of Equalization property value increase over the previous year. And for the River District, we have a $34 million pre-Board of Equalization property valuation increase over the previous year. So the valuations in our district have gone up in both districts. A lot in the River District, $34 million, and $7 million in the Lake District. So now you equate that into what that means for tax increment revenue. So the result is for the Lake District, we have an estimated FY16 tax increment revenue of $4.3 million, which you see on the screen up there, and River District estimated tax increment revenue of $2.3 million. As with past expenses, we have included a 2% transfer to the City Arts Commission for future public art projects located within the districts. We have $85,918 estimated for the Lake District and $45,689 for the River District. The draft budgets includes costs for professional contract services for accounting, which is Gorley and Associates, legal counsel, Holly Troxel and Neal and Burke, external audit, Magnuson McHugh, community relations, Range Northwest, and Government Relations, Molitor and Associates. We also have planning funds in the budget for professional services. For example, we have $250,000 in the River District targeted for planning on Celtice Way road improvements. As you recall, we had those funds in this year's fiscal budget, but the city did not pull the trigger on that initiative, so we're just rolling that over into the next fiscal year. As was shared by Rod, we have in the Lake District budget for FY16 $2,080,000, which is our Lake District bond payment that we will pay Washington Trust Bank. In addition, the Lake District budget includes $1.6 million in grant funding for initial four-corner project construction elements. For example, Mullen Road, project elements around Memorial Field area. This is still fluid. As you probably read in the paper, the city is still kind of working through what they're going to do on the four corners. But working with the Welch-Comer team and with city staff, we felt comfortable putting in $1.6 million for those elements. Should they survive the planning process, we anticipate being approached for to fund, and then the board will make a decision. But if we don't have the money in the budget, we can't make many decisions, so we put in the money in the budget for that. The Lake District, the budget also includes $37,500 grant to the Coeur d'Alene Downtown Association for their events program. And in the River District, the budget includes funding for a potential tech market initiative in Riverstone West, which involves the Innovation Collective organization, the University of Idaho, and Gizmo. This is a kind of a new initiative that you're all aware of. We're not sure if it's going to gain legs or not, but we're putting money into the budget in case it does, so that the board can make a decision if they want to fund that initiative and at what level. Those are the budget highlights that I had. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on the budget. Once again, this is a draft budget. The board, if they so choose, will approve this draft budget and authorize me to go ahead and publish this budget, and then we will have a formal budget hearing at our August board meeting before you set the final budget.
And as we have typically done, we try to be fairly conservative on the income side. I think we usually come in really close to what we think we're going to get, and then a little more aggressive on the expense side, not knowing exactly what we're going to be spending money on as far as projects and timing, as Tony mentioned. So by doing that on both sides, we end up with, I think, overall a fairly conservative budget when you look at it. It provides us a little more flexibility.
We are one of the initial agencies, entities in the state that has to set a budget. The cities don't have to do it for another month or so, but we have to kind of get out of the gate in July, so we have to make some estimations like we do on levy rates, which we really don't know. We won't know till the fall, so we have to kind of use what we got, and then the valuations, they will change. After the Board of Equalization meets, they'll move a little bit. And so when it's all said and done, our valuation will be a little different, and the levy rates will be a little different, but hopefully we'll be fairly close to what the budget is.
Deanna.
Tony, you used the Phil Boyd's estimates on this item number B, the Four Corners project. Are they going to be there, and they're still very much in the planning, or what? This is a pretty good chunk of money to be setting aside for that.
What I did,
Give
Deanna,
me some information, more information.
What I did, Deanna, is I got with the planning team and city staff, key city staff, and said, we have to set a budget here. What are your plans for Four Corners, and what do you think are the first catalytic elements of the project that would need to be done in order to generate steam for others? And they said, well, the first thing that would need to be done would be to do the Mullen Road realignment. And currently, they have that road kind of bending in the park, and that might not be how it ends up, but under that current idea, it's a $1.2 million initiative. And the city has money budgeted for part of that, and we are putting in about $860,000 towards that realignment of Mullen Road. It might not happen. I mean, current talk is maybe they might close the road now, so we're not quite sure what may happen, but that's what this budget represents. If the road stays as is, it's about a $1.2 million cost, with us at $860 and the city at around $350 or whatever. I'm sorry.
I just wonder if it's appropriate to designate it for Mullen Road.
Right, it's not designated for Mullen Road. It's just for the Four Corners.
So you're just using this as...
I had to build up to the $1.6 million, and that's the information I'm using. We don't have to spend on Mullen Road. We can spend it on other elements of the initiative.
Because there's other pieces to this Four Corners planning,
Exactly.
the BLM properties, and So is any of this designed towards go to that, or is just the whole Four Corners initiative is what we're talking about?
Well, I kind of view the whole BLM and the Four Corners together, so yes, it could go towards BLM elements should the board choose in the Lake District.
So to reiterate, this is not a decision point on what gets done and what it costs. It's establishing a fund balance from which we could draw, depending on what our decisions are. And I'm hearing of late that the sort of major realignment of Mullen encroaching into the park is not going to happen. There's a fair amount of pushback on that, and particularly for what's shown as the parking area at the northwest corner of the park has not been well received by the residents there. So I think that cost is going to be coming down some. Question on that, and this maybe isn't the right spot for it, but remind me where the district boundary is with relation to Mullen Avenue. Is it all within the district boundary?
No, the way currently it is, but the way they have it designed with the dip,
that would go out.
That dip would go out of the district, and that's what the city funds would be used for. Okay. Our funds would be used for the part of Mullen within the district.
Correct. Okay. Other questions, comments? Tony?
So I've crafted a motion. I'll go ahead and read it. I'm seeking authorization to publish the proposed FY16 draft budget as presented in the Coeur d'Alene Press prior to the August 19th, 2015 budget public hearing date.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to publish the proposed budget in the press as stated in Tony's motion. Discussion? No questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Rod? Housing Committee. Yeah.
This time I have no report. There's still some activities sort of out there. We'll see what happens in the next month.
You talking about Midtown?
Midtown, yeah.
Nothing new to report?
There's nothing new on any other housing initiative right now.
Okay. Questions of Deanna? If not, Parking Committee. Brad?
Nothing new to report, Mr. Chairman.
Dave, Communications.
It's been kind of a quiet month. I say that a little tongue-in-cheek now. Our name change educational initiative is 28 days into its new life. We have got the 30-second commercial pretty much in its done form. There's a few minor edits going on to it, verbiage-wise, but expect to see that available probably even in the next couple of days. And the other things we've got going, the website, the new website is up and functioning. Looks pretty good. It can be seen at IgniteCDA.org. So you might want to check that out. Other than that, that's about all I've got.
Questions of Dave? Deanna?
Now, Dave, I had a few people ask me some of the communication efforts from Range. They've asked that we be a little more detailed as to our participation instead of just saying we supported the Kroc Center. Well, how did we support the Kroc Center? How did we do some of these things? A little more information. Is that something that the Communications Committee can look at with Range?
Yeah, each of the initiatives I think that are highlighted up to this point have a capital investment amount put in there, a dollar amount. If there are jobs created, they talk about that. Then they have kind of a what's the value today, and that's somewhat difficult to equate as to what's the value, fair market value of McEwen Park, let's say. But were your people wanting to know, what other information other than what public dollars are in it, what's been the jobs impact, and what's the estimated value of it? What else would they like to know?
It sounds like, if I can butt in, it sounds like they want to know what we spent the money on. Not
Detail?
necessary. So maybe there's a way you can put a summary
okay.
page on the website they could link and go to,
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that
have a little
Tony
bit
and
more detail. It's
Tony
probably
needs to
there
add
if
that
you,
detail.
if you ferreted through all the information on the website.
Sure.
I'm sure it's all there, but we could maybe put it in a little
be
more.
for site improvements or parking lot or, obviously dirt work and a lot of the amenities, parking garage, that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
for instance, the library would be land acquisition.
I think you're correct in saying it's all in there, but it's just not discreetly presented. But
It's not as
We
easy
could
to
provide that
access
level of
of
detail as to where their dollars
each
went.
each
Sure.
item, so I think that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
I think people need to understand
Sure.
a little more detail, and I
Good.
think they'd appreciate it.
Good input. Yeah, I agree.
We will work on that.
Any other questions of Dave?
That's all I
Hearing
have.
none? Is that all you have, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Jobs Committee, Mick.
The only thing I have is that Tony is continuing to meet with Nick Smoot and Charles Buck of University of Idaho and in the Innovation Collective on the potential site out at Riverstone. So it's ongoing. We'll keep you posted as it changes. So that's all I have.
I don't know if any of you had a chance to take in the Kinetic Fest on Sunday. We wandered over, and it was pretty interesting. They had a pretty vibrant group of people, lots of young people that had built things. And it's one of those things where, it's gonna result in some pretty, I think, strong young entrepreneurs out there in a few years. It's pretty cool stuff. Okay. Executive Director's Report, Tony.
A few items, Mr. Chairman. The first one is I want to bring to the board a recommendation for the board to consider renewing the annual contract for Teresa Molitor with Molitor and Associates for our government relations work. The terms of the contract remain unchanged, exactly as they were last year. This would be a renewal for one more year, and her fee is $22,000 a year for government relations work. So I would look for board consideration of that recommendation.
Just to comment, Commissioner Goodlander had asked me to do a little checking around references in the legislative halls. I did that, came up with nothing negative. I hadn't had a chance to talk to you, so I apologize for that.
And Tony, I believe her request was for a little bit more than that.
Right.
And we chose to keep it the same
Correct.
amount as a year ago.
Correct.
Again, I think the ultimate goal is to get those services through the Redevelopment Association of Idaho. They're getting closer, but they're actually a little bit inundated themselves right now, particularly with the interim committee. They'll be staffing, doing research assistance and sort of staffing that interim committee work all summer. So they're going to have their plate full, and they're going to be scrambling to cover those costs.
Will Teresa be involved with that at all, those
I would
meetings?
assume some.
She'll be attending. There's two meetings scheduled in August. We're not sure. There's no agenda posted yet. We're not sure if they're going to take public input, or if they do, what form of public input. It's still pretty vague right now.
Are they going to travel at all, or is it just going to be centered in Boise?
Apparently, from what I've heard, is they have a very limited travel budget, and most likely it will be in Boise, but not for sure.
Have they had their first meeting?
First meeting is August 10th.
So that's when I think they'll probably decide those issues, where they're going to meet and how often, probably. But it will take up some time and resources. Deanna.
I'd move to approve Molitor and Associates Government Relations Contract Renewal.
Second.
Move and second to approve that renewal. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next item I have, Mr. Chairman, is Resolution 15-04, Amendment to Agency Bylaws regarding doing business as, or abbreviated DBA, name change to IgniteCDA. I've shared with you the resolution and the change to the bylaws. I'll go ahead and read the resolution so everybody can understand what it is. It's a resolution of the board of the Coeur d'Alene Urban Renewal Agency, Kootenai County, Idaho, approving an amendment to the bylaws of the Coeur d'Alene Urban Renewal Agency, specifically an amendment to Article 1 to rename the Coeur d'Alene Urban Renewal Agency. So the resolution would be the Urban Renewal Agency for the City of Coeur d'Alene, as created pursuant to the provisions of Idaho Urban Renewal Law, shall be known as a Coeur d'Alene Urban Renewal Agency doing business as IgniteCDA. And we crossed out Lake City Development Corporation in the documents.
Okay, so we basically approved the name change last month. We're catching up with our bylaws because the bylaws actually have a section that refer to the name. So any questions of Tony? Motion?
Move to approve Resolution 15-04 as presented.
Second that.
Moving and second to approve Resolution 15-04. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Brad?
I think to stay consistent, I'll probably be voting no on this motion. But I do appreciate serving on a great organization like this, and I respect all of you. I just have a difference of opinion on doing this name change. So do I, but-
Okay. Other discussion, Deanna?
Well, I'm probably going to join Brad in that because I had some problems with it. Perhaps I won't. Perhaps I will vote yes on the motion because the rest of the board did approve it, and I do want to support the direction of the board, so I'm going to vote yes. I did vote no on the original motion.
Tony, have you had much discussion from anybody, or have you heard much about feedback with the name change in the last 28 days?
I have, and if I had to weigh it, it's been more positive than negative. I've had feedback on both sides. Some people don't like it, some people do like it. The majority of the people I have spoken to and interacted with like it, and they understand what we're trying to do. I think the folks that have been critical of our efforts in the past will remain critical of our efforts in the future, but I think there's a huge demographic in our community that we have not touched yet, and that we have not made aware of what we do and how we do it. So I think it'll be a beneficial move.
I will add that having ridden in the parade with our entry, I heard nothing but positive comments and connection that people along the parade route had particularly with the banner. And so, lots of affirmative shaking of the heads. I think they connected with the projects that we were trying to connect ourselves to. So I think it's having a positive impact. And the real goal here is to impact with people that we have not impacted or connected with before. So I think we're showing some positive movement in that area. But in any event, like I say, we made the decision last month, so we need to bring our bylaws into conformance with that. Any other comments, questions? Not. I think we have a roll call.
We do. Goodlander?
Yes.
Jordan?
No.
Davis?
Aye.
Caldwell?
Aye.
Hoskins? Ruffle? Hatzer?
Aye.
Arvin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item I have, Mr. Chairman, is going back to the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad right-of-way acquisition, the transfer of the River District segment to the City of Coeur d'Alene. As you recall, back on May 20th, 2015, the board agreed to transfer to the City of Coeur d'Alene this asset in our River District, as long as the city would redevelop it based on our urban renewal plan and begin redevelopment efforts on that property within 2 years. Since that motion, I've heard back from city leadership that they feel the 2-year time frame might be a little too tight for them to engage upon. We've had conversations. Ms. Quaid and I kind of assured them that we don't see any problem with them engaging in 2 years. I mean, even planning efforts would count as engaging, but they still feel a little uncomfortable, and they've asked that we bring this back to the board to see if the board would consider extending that 2-year time commitment a little longer. So thus, I bring it back to you at their request to see if the board would be willing to extend that 2-year time frame out further. They suggested 5 years, but it's really up to the board to decide what would be a legitimate time frame.
Deanna.
This is the property at Header. This is the Hutter property.
Yes, in our river district.
In our river district.
Yeah, right.
So again, it goes from the Hutter city boundary east to...
The Atlas Mill site, right behind the U.S. Bank Call Center, that stretch.
Question? Oh, go ahead.
Dave.
There's a chain link fence requirement as part of this deal being driven by, I don't know if it's by the railroad or by
By the railroad.
Okay. When does that have to be initiated?
When the trail is developed.
Okay.
Is that the decision, the 5-year point that they're looking at, is just to extend it for 5 years so they have time to get the trail developed and the fencing then put in?
No, all they're looking for is an extension of time. The development of the trail would drive the timing of the fence. I mean, if they start on the trail within the next year, the fence would have to be pretty quick.
So there's no legal ramifications to this as far as our
No, I mean, our
purchase or anything?
district doesn't expire until 2027, so we just felt 2 years was a reasonable time frame. They would like a little longer.
Deanna?
I think a 5-year time frame is all right. You know, that at some point in time, the city may have an opportunity to negotiate a little more with the railroad on that fence. Let's give them some time. So I'm more comfortable with that. I'm going to make a motion that we transfer the River District segment to the city of Coeur d'Alene with allowing up to 5 years for the city to develop the property.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to approve transfer of that segment of the right-of-way to the city on the condition that they commence development activity,
Redevelopment efforts, which
redevelopment
includes
efforts
planning.
within 5 years of the date of transfer. Dave?
I was going to ask Danielle, what's our potential legal downside of moving from 2 to 5 years? What's our risk, or why wouldn't we favor 5 years?
I don't think there's any legal downside. You just have to determine that it's a reasonable amount of time. So whatever the board views to be reasonable. I would want to add to the motion, though, because it's required by the code, that the property be used within the purposes designated in the plan.
I have that in the motion.
Okay.
I'll read the whole motion at the end and put forward. Motion by Commissioner Goodlander, second by Commissioner Jordan, authorizing IgniteCDA to convey the railroad right-of-way property acquired from Burlington Northern in IgniteCDA's River District to the City of Coeur d'Alene, conditioned upon the City of Coeur d'Alene agreeing to use the property for purposes designated in IgniteCDA's River District Urban Renewal Plan and begin redevelopment efforts on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe right-of-way property within 5 years of date of transfer. Also authorizing the Executive Director to facilitate the conveyance.
That's what I said.
How does that sound legally?
That meets the requirements of the statute for a transfer.
Second agrees.
Okay, Dave?
Danielle, let's say Parks Department comes out, they want to change the parking out at Mill River, and as part of that, they need to utilize this right-of-way. Does that constitute planning and engagement of the need? Okay.
I would add that we have negotiated an agreement with the city to make a record of the requirements in the code before that we'll enter into before we do the transfer.
So we'll have I presume we'll have a resolution approving the actual agreement and transfer, or does this do it?
We have that already, that the board approved. We just haven't pulled the trigger on it until the conveyance happens.
So is this in effect amending that resolution?
We have to look at
We didn't have a resolution. It was just a motion, but you authorized Tony to
Okay.
enter into the agreement and convey the property. When I went back and looked at the minutes from
So
the
we'll
May meeting.
have an actual agreement to approve at some
Right.
point.
Well, you authorized Tony to negotiate the agreement if you would like the agreement to be brought back to the board.
And when does the property actually transfer ownership to the city?
Once they approve the agreement with the conditions as required by the code,
Okay.
then we
So
would
it could be in the
facilitate
next
the
couple of
transfer.
months.
What's the board's pleasure? Do you want to see the agreement back, or do you want to consider this to be our approval?
The meat of the agreement really is those two requirements on the city, that they develop it in accordance with the plan and that they take steps to do that in the next
And
5 years.
they're okay with that, other than 5 years?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Other than they
So
were
all we're
concerned
changing
about
is 5 years, or 2
the
years to
two,
5 years.
right?
Correct.
And it's not the entire length of the River District property, so do we need to have description in there?
No, it is the entire segment within the River District.
I thought there was there was a portion that was going to be left over in the River District after we did the transfer.
No.
There's a gap in there, right, that's not in either district. There's a
Okay,
piece of
that's what it
property
is.
that's not in either district. Other
I don't
questions
think the
or comments?
agreement, in my mind, needs to come back to us. The changes are minor. We rely on Tony and Danielle to finish it up if the rest of the commissioners agree.
I agree, Rod.
I agree. That's why you have lawyers.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve this. All those in favor, or any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the final element I have tonight, I just want to review our third quarter 2015 tactical goals with the board. Jeff, were you lucky enough to get that loaded? Not lucky enough, but professional enough. I have no doubt that he would have got that loaded.
Maybe lucky.
I emailed these out to everybody. Anybody need a copy? I can share a few copies. I got one here. But they're on the screen there. Basically, the only elements that I fear we might not make this year, as we hope to, in this fiscal year, which ends in end of September, is the one you see in yellow, which would be both in the River District, and that involves the Atlas Mill site. We were hoping that that would be within our scope within this fiscal year, that the developers, owners of that property would have maybe looked to get everything annexed into the city, and that we would approach city to see if we might be able to participate in some form by modifying our River District boundary, and that has not occurred. It probably will not occur this fiscal year, so we'll probably roll it into the next fiscal year. But everything else, I think we're on track for achieving this fiscal year.
Comments or questions, Tony?
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Tony. All right, board commissioner comments? Seeing none, public comment. Greg, welcome.
Greg Johnson, Midtown Association. So it sounds like maybe in the next 30 days we have some other things percolating for Midtown, from what I gather, because I've heard this, maybe some of the same things, that there's some developers interested. So I'm just here to remind you that we are part of the cogs of making this thing work with you guys. So
you're out there, and
Okay.
I think we're kind of waiting to see.
okay, and that's what I heard
what gets
too.
brought
Things
to
are
us.
kind of coming together. As I look at that there with the workforce housing, is that still under the, I know that last month we had a so-called stall on working with them on this Midtown project. Is that still part of the same deal, or is that?
These are our current year goals, which we set last spring.
Okay.
Our next year fiscal year, we did tweak that language
Yes, we did.
a little bit.
Okay, all right.
Right.
I'm just a layman here, not knowing.
Yeah,
all
we're
that.
dealing with something here that was set in the spring of 2014.
Well, we're looking forward to working with you and with whoever is ready to jump into Midtown and make it happen. So,
We hope it's something that works.
yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none. We have an executive session tonight, so Chair would entertain a motion to enter into executive session under Idaho Code Section 67-2345 Sub 1, subsection C, to conduct deliberations concerning acquiring an interest in real property which is not owned by a public agency.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Roll call.
Roll call, Goodlander,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
Patzer.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Ruffle.
Aye.
Jordan.
Yes.
Hoskins.
Yes.
Okay, we will be in executive session.